Speaking of kind of fundamentally unbelievable, Paul Ryan released a new budget yesterday, and
I think that should be his tagline, like Paul fundamentally unbelievable Ryan. Huh?
Paul fundamentally unbelievable, uncredible sociopath who looks like Alfalfa Ryan.
Not as concise as
Not as
mine,
concise.
but
No, yours was better. It's more concise. But I do like this sociopath who looks like Alfalfa, who wants to take away your Medicare. Ryan. Yesterday,
Tina Dupuy.
Tina Dupuy did an excellent job sort of breaking down the numbers in the budget, and the new sort of study from the Heritage Foundation, which just reiterates all of their previous fake numbers from the Bush administration when they scored out his tax cuts. So if, obviously those tax cuts worked out incredibly well, so we can have confidence that Ryan's budget will work out incredibly well.
And by incredibly well, Michael means the exact opposite.
Means basically it destroyed the entire planet, basically the fiscal health of the United States for a generation. She did that on the better half of the show, and you can look that up on YouTube and take a look at it. She did a great job describing it. But I want to kind of come back for a second to the Ryan budget for a couple of different reasons. One is I think that there's just this fundamentally delusional quality here, because he's proposing, if anything, an even more extreme budget than he had proposed before. And I think that what's fascinating to me is I remember in 2009, some people on the right said, and actually even on the left, I had this perspective on the left in some ways. I thought not only would it be easier, I actually always thought Mitt Romney would be pretty easy to beat, but I thought, not only would it be easier, if they actually nominated someone they wouldn't nominate, but if they actually nominated a Gingrich or a Santorum or something, not only would Obama win in a landslide, but there would be no way that the right could say that this candidate wasn't pure enough, or Mitt Romney's a flip-flopper, or Mitt Romney's really a moderate, or all the rest. And I think that there was a concern that there wasn't going to be this real test of extreme right-wing ideas with Romney getting the nomination. But I'll tell you, when he picked Paul Ryan and he ran the campaign he chose to run, that was a test of far right-wing politics today. That was a test of doubling down on all of the most extreme trickle-down ideas of George W. Bush. It was a double down on tax policy. It was a double down on slashing, gutting, fundamentally decimating the modern social not only safety net, but just really modern social infrastructure that we all rely on. And they lost. They lost badly, and President Obama certainly rhetorically made that choice very clear. Joe Biden made that choice very clear in his debate with Paul Ryan, the vice presidential debate. So that election happened. It was done. The result was clear. Paul Ryan actually said in his press conference yesterday that we ran on and arguably won on some of these ideas. Now, I don't know what planet or what universe or what kind of...
Did he specify, or he just said some of these ideas?
He said that he has a computer-generated Dungeons and Dragons game that he plays with the Koch brothers, and those ideas won in their fantasy universe that they're playing in together. But obviously nothing involving real life. Now, and I think what's amazing about this, and I want to quote Jonathan Cohn, who writes for the New Republic, and he basically said this. He said, Ryan's budget that he outlined yesterday would be analogous to, quote, Walter Mondale returning to Congress in 1985 and proposing a budget that undid President Reagan's agenda, reduced deficits by raising taxes on the middle class, and in other words, the exact same thing he'd proposed in his losing campaign for the presidency. So, and as we remember, Walter Mondale lost, I believe that was actually 49 states to 1. He lost a very convincing, that was a very convincing loss. It was probably, if Sam was old enough to vote, it was probably Sam Seder voting for Walter Mondale, my parents, and probably the audience of this show. That was probably basically it. But I think it's really interesting he brought up that example because it shows where the Republicans are at now in terms of their effort to rebrand and change, which is to say there is no effort. Now, the Democrats in the 1980s, and I think a lot of people that listen to the show probably don't like the changes that the Democrats implemented. There were a lot of really fundamentally problematic changes. But people like Bill Clinton, like Al Gore, and other people who were associated with something called the Democratic Leadership Council and this whole notion of third-way politics, sat down and they really tried to figure out why are we losing elections? And part of it, and the part of it that's remained is let's be more pro-business, let's raise more corporate sector money. There's no doubt about it. The other part of it was they went to a county, I think it was Macomb County in Michigan, which became the standout of white working class voters that switched from the Democrats to vote for Reagan. These are the original Reagan Democrats. And Stanley Greenberg, who's a Democratic pollster and strategist, still working today, he went and he did focus groups with these voters, and he asked them, why are you not voting for Democrats anymore? And, some of it was very disturbing. There was definitely some racism there that was pretty blunt and direct. There was some real social conservatism. But there was also this sense that Democrats were not respectful and mindful of their social concerns and not kind of focusing like a real laser beam on their economic concerns in some respects. And if you remember when President Clinton first ran for president in 1992, that was the first sort of third way campaign. And he moved to the right on economic and social issues, but he also talked about putting people first. He talked about universal health care. He talked about if you work hard and play by the rules, you should be able to succeed and do well in this economy. So in some ways, he actually made a really kind of broader and clearer populist argument because it wasn't differentiated by group by group. So he was speaking to a broader American middle class and working class audience. That's the kind of genesis of the third way, and that spread. Tony Blair rebranded the Labour Party using the same political strategies and techniques. They won in Britain. And look, it was very politically effective. I think, and obviously in a lot of ways, there's some really problematic aspects of this legacy that we still live with. Part of what we still live with is that Democrats occupy the center and also arguably the center right, and Republicans are just on the extremes, now on the extreme right. Now, that might be good for us from an electoral point of view, but I don't know how good that is actually for progressives because it leaves all of this vacuum and all of this space in terms of pushing a policy. Because if you basically have the center and then the extreme right, what are we going to do?
Exactly.
Right? And I think that that's the kind of dynamic that comes up a lot on the show every day. And actually, in some ways, that's why we should be hoping that some Republicans will actually sit down and potentially get serious about trying to reoccupy the center ground a little bit so that that space has a little bit more competition and potentially that might open more space on the
It might force
progressive.
some Democrats to move further to the left.
It might force some Democrats to move further to the left. Now, I think in some ways, I think the makeup of this Senate is a little bit further to the left than it was previously, and this sort of all comes together.
But that's
here.
not saying much.
It's definitely not saying much. Exactly. So I think it all comes together here, though, when you look at, and I loved what President Obama said in his interview with Stephanopoulos, but by that same token, as with these things, kind of like Matt said, with President Obama, with one hand, one hand gives, one hand takes away. He was on Capitol Hill, pushing apparently the idea of a chained CPI, which is a Social Security cut to Senate Democrats again, and that I would say those are the vestiges of that sort of third way politics, frankly, and actually, and he got very strong pushback against chained CPI from Senate Democrats like Tom Harkin, a couple of others.
Bernie Sanders.
Obviously Bernie Sanders is great on these issues. And Elizabeth Warren said in an interview last week, and I think this distills it. Chained CPI is just a fancy way to say a cut in benefit for seniors, the permanently disabled, and orphans. And then as this article in Salon by Alex Zeitzwald says, on top of it, President Obama, he gets pushback from Democrats, and he's still not going to get any credit from Republicans for proposing these things. So the conclusion of this sort of riff is the Republicans are completely delusional and crazy. That may not be a great thing for long-term progressive politics, because I think we actually want more legitimate competition in the center ground, because as long as the kind of people like President Obama are defining the center by sort of how much we cut, how much we tinker versus how much we invest, how much we innovate, and how much we provide for people real opportunity and real mobility, which is what I think progressive politics is about, that's really problematic.